So friends, here we are going to start with the strength of material second lecture, which is from stress transformation, which is the part 2. Here we are going to discuss about the principal stresses and planes, and we will consider the combination of normal and plane stresses in this case here. So kindly subscribe, share it to the maximum. Okay, thank you. So we'll begin with it. Alright. Now let's see what does actually the plane stress mean. To understand this, let's consider a cube. So remember, this cube is actually a three-dimensional body. Three-dimensional means it has axis in three different directions, namely in x, y and z. Alright. So when this is the case, and consider any of the two faces of the cube. Say let this side be the face 1 and the other side be the face 2. In any of these cases, faces, if the stresses acting, say sigma x dash and sigma x equals 0, then the force in the two direction is 0 itself. That is in this direction. Put in sigma z direction is actually 0. These are the stresses that we had considered, and the force, or whatever we call, for example, the implication of the force is a stress. That stress is actually equals 0. So the plane stress is the condition wherein when the two faces of the cubic elements are free from any of the stresses, the stress condition is referred to as the plane stress condition. You can just try this experimentally. Consider a rubber. Normally in the case of civil engineering structures or in the structural engineering, it is common that we consider structure or the structural member should be elastic in nature. This is because any of the stresses that have been induced, which when released or which when tend to diminish, should be able to bring back the structure to its original shape or size. So under that concept, we consider the plane stress condition here. If this rubber, suppose if we apply stress to it in two different sides of the rubber, in two different faces of it, either at the top or the bottom, either at sideways like this, either at top or sideways like this, there is a stress induced within this material, and that stress at a point is three-dimensional in nature. When you don't apply the stress on one of the sides, when one of the sides is free, just if you apply the stress like this, it tends to move away, isn't it? Suppose if this is fixed at the bottom, then the stresses will be generated here. Then it means that two faces have the stresses here. So the third face obviously has the stress. But if bottom is not fixed, then there is no stress, and if you apply external stress only on one side, then the body does not constitute any stress at all, because it is just free to move from its position. So plane stress condition, we define it as when the two faces of the cubic elements are free of any stresses, the stress condition is called as plane stress condition. Alright, this can just remember, however this is just for the understanding purposes. So this was about the plane stresses. Now let's see about the principal stresses. Now in the part 1 of the stress transformation, we had considered a beam, isn't it, which had a length of say L. Within the beam, earlier we had considered the different elements. These elements, I will represent them as small e. The elements by themselves act as a member. Okay, member. It means that they themselves act as a small beam like element. But suppose if we consider any point within the beam, okay, that doesn't act as an element. Okay, over this point, whenever force has been applied to the beam, over any point within the beam, this point experiences the stress. Now, it is not necessary that the point has to be here only. It can be anywhere in the beam. And this point, for example, say point P, whatever we have considered here is, this point generally experiences only normal stresses. Okay, it experiences only normal stresses. For this point, there exist the three mutually perpendicular planes. Okay, consider this one the same point above for us. It has three different types of planes. Let me draw it. Okay, these three planes are imaginary just for our understanding regarding the stress transformation at a point. Okay, this is one plane and it has direction x, and the another direction is y, and the another direction is like this, which is z. So just the coordinate system, I will write it here separately. Now this is how it looks when we look from the front. When we look it in the sideways, for the planes whatever we have seen, it just looks like this. All right, okay, this is how it looks when we look it from the front side. Now any point within any material which, when subjected to the external force, that is a material subjected to the external force, any point within it experiences only the normal force. So the planes in which only the normal force acts, I mean the normal stresses act, that plane is referred to as the principal plane. Okay, and these planes are normally orthogonal in nature, which means they are mutually perpendicular with each other. So I will put it in sentence here. In orthogonal plane, so these planes are called as principal planes. Now what is that normal stress where it acts in the principal planes? That normal stress is called as principal stresses. Okay, see, the orthogonal plane is in three different directions, x, y and z. So these planes, on one of these planes there is a maximum value of this normal stress sigma. So that maximum value of the stress, that stress corresponds to the maximum principal stress, and among those three planes there is another stress which acts in the minimum value. There is another minimum normal stress which acts in minimum magnitude, that is called as minimum principal stress. Okay, or they are called as major or minor principal stress as well. Okay, so this is the concept about principal planes and principal stresses. One more thing here is that any point within the material only experiences the normal stress, and those planes where only normal stress acts but not the shear stresses are also referred to as principal planes. So in simple words, on principal planes the shear stresses are zero and only normal stresses act. It means that these normal stresses aren't zero, are not actually zero. But however, if you consider an elementary material within the huge material like a beam, a material like this, you will experience the shear stresses. This has been explained in the previous lecture of stress transformation. All right, so one important point: on the orthogonal planes, or the planes which are mutually perpendicular to each other, such as these principal planes, the shear stress is zero. So I will put it in words here. All right, so remember this point. This is important point. Next we shall consider some different cases and arrive at expressions, some of the important expressions which are necessary for the exams, in case of competitive exams particularly. Now people, if you are benefiting from these videos, kindly subscribe and share it to your friends as well. I will provide a link to join the Telegram group where you will find number of formulas and important notes regarding civil engineering. Now you people have already finished your graduation, most probably. I know that you people exactly know the definition of normal stresses or shear or tangential stresses. If you don't know, just in one line, normal stresses are those which actually act perpendicular to the surface, and these normal stresses are nothing but the resultant of the force P. Resultant, when I say resultant, it doesn't mean the square root of P square, tau square, etc. It just means that in this case, I said the normal stresses are just the implication of the force. It is nothing but the force that has been acting per unit area, and the shear stresses act actually parallel to the surface. Okay, so now we will begin with the different cases. The case 1 is when the member is subjected to the axial load. Alright, let's begin this. For this we have to consider an element of corners A, B, C and D. So this be our A, this be our B, C and D. Now as I said, to determine these principal stresses at any point within the structure, we have to consider a section within the structure itself. So our structure is this element A, B, C and D, where we are going to consider a section, say BE. Say BE is inclined at an angle of theta with respect to a vertical axis. Now let this be subjected to a axial force, say W. This axial force W actually produces a stress small p. Okay, instead of representing W here, I will directly write the stress P. Okay, I have written it here. Now the important thing we need to do here is we just need to analyze this plane BE. Okay, now which is our normal axis? Our normal axis is this AB. Okay, A and B here. Now as specified, our principal stresses are nothing but the normal stresses acting on the plane BE, and thereafter we have to determine this tangential stress on the plane BE. So where does this tangential plane exist? It is that our BE itself, and over this we have our stress. So this stress be our tangential stress tau, or we can represent it as PT, and the normal stress to the plane is Pn. To the plane BE is Pn. Now you see that to determine the stress we have this common formula, force divided by area. So area here corresponds to our BE area. Now see that this plane BE is inclined by an angle of theta. It means that the length of the BE is greater than that of the AB, isn't it? BE is nothing but our hypotenuse, isn't it? So BE is obviously greater because it is inclined. So when the length of the BE is higher, it means that the area A is also higher for the plane BE. I did not mention it earlier. The ABCD element has an area of A. Okay, now when it comes to the BE, it also has an area of A itself, because it is just the section or the point we are considering at every point in the beam itself. Okay, so this area is nothing but our uniform cross-sectional area for the A, B, C and D. At this section of BE also we have the area A, but it is of higher magnitude because of inclination of BE by an angle of theta. So the BE area is greater than the AB area by a value of hypotenuse times of the cross-sectional area of AB, which is actually A. So what is that hypotenuse? Secant theta is equals to hypotenuse divided by the base. So our base here is AB, the hypotenuse is BE. So this hypotenuse BE is nothing but secant theta multiplied by the base. So our base area is what? A. I mean, the base has the cross-sectional area of A. The cross-section at every point we will get have the same area A, because it has been mentioned it is of uniform section. Okay. The inclination increases the value of the area for BE by an amount of secant theta. So the sectional area of the plane along the plane BE is A secant theta. Now friends, this lecture is little bit slower when compared to that of the previous lectures, because only this case I will explain it in detail. The next case is just similar to this one, where I am just writing directly the formulas. Sectional area of plane BE is given as nothing but a secant theta, which we just calculated. Now we got the area to evaluate our normal stress. We have to evaluate the force required for our normal stress. What is the force acting on BE has to be found out. We know that the stress that has been acting is P on the face AB. Now it has been inclined by an angle of theta now. So it is clearly evident that on the plane BE, our force P, sorry, our stress P is acting here like this. It just crosses here. So this is the vertical plane inclined at theta. So P is crossing here like this, isn't it? This is our stress. This is the normal stress Pn. Now what do we need to do here is that we will just split this P so that we will get a normal component of this P for the plane B to E. So it has to be along this direction. So this has to be P multiplied by A, because PA is actually the force acting on the plane AB, isn't it? And due to its inclination by an angle of theta, that is the inclination of the plane BE and the resultance of the same stress P, there is a reduction in the force by an amount of cos of theta. Theta comes only because the inclination of the plane BE. Okay, this is one component that we have resolved the P into. The another component is P sine of theta, which is actually parallel to the surface. Our normal force we have considered, our normal stress what we are considering here is for the plane BE. So we are considering PA cos of theta. This accounts to a value of 0, because sine of 0 is equals to 0. It is at 0 angle with respect to the BE, but this is at 90 degree. So just keep it as PA cos of theta. So the normal stress Pn is equals to PA cos of theta divided by A secant theta. Now I hope you got to understand this geometry here. This angle is nothing but theta here. Okay, if you have not understand how did I get this theta here, I will just simply write this A, B and E in this manner. Okay, this is our theta here, this is our point A, E here, and this is B here. Now just for the understanding purposes, this is our force, I mean stress P here, which has been crossing AB. You can see it, you can see it. I have just drawn it in the horizontal direction. Just resolve this with respect to this plane. One of this is Pn, small p, normal force, and the other one becomes, the angle between these two resolved forces is 90 degree. This is nothing but the tangential component of the same force P. Just forget this PT here, whatever PT I had considered earlier. Okay, just keep it in mind later side. This is just for the understanding purposes. So this is one of the component is sine and one of the component is cos. Now look at here, this angle of inclination is theta. Okay, we had considered earlier. So this plane here, whatever you can see, has been shifted by an amount of theta. So what happens, this force P here is also shifted by an amount of theta. Ultimately these have to be 90 degree itself. So that is why P normal component to the BE is nothing but P cos of theta. Okay, I hope you got to know at least now. So this was about the normal component. Next is the tangential component, which is nothing but the tangential force along the plane BE divided by tangential stress on the plane BE is equal to tangential force along the plane BE multiplied by the area of the plane BE, which is nothing but A secant theta we had considered earlier, and the sectional, sorry, this area is not A secant theta, and divided by the sectional area of plane BE. Sectional area of the plane BE is what we calculated as A secant theta. The tangential stress is given as PT in our case, what we had considered. So this is equals to, now earlier we had said that there is one of the component which has been acting parallel to the surface. So that parallel component we are going to take it here as PA. PA actually is the area of this plane AB. Again I am saying it, multiplied by the plane AB's inclination is sine of theta. Okay, remember we are not going to put 0 here for theta. 0 cannot be put here because we are considering the tangential stress. When there is normal stresses acting, for the normal stress case it is perpendicular. For the tangential stress case it is parallel. Okay, for the tangential stress it is obvious the only inclination has to be considered. So this is the inclination criteria, which is sine of theta. So PA sine theta divided by A secant of theta. So tangential stress PT, just simplify it. Secant theta is nothing but 1 by cos of theta. Okay, so it is sine of theta divided by 1 by cos of theta is equals to sine theta into cos of theta. This is nothing but sine of 2 theta. Remember, that is what we are going to substitute here. P by 2 times of sine of 2 theta. Now I did not simplify here as well. The normal stress Pn is equals to secant theta is 1 by cos theta. Again cos goes up, it becomes cos square. A gets cancelled, so it is P square. So sorry, P cos square theta. So this was our normal component of stress and our tangential stresses. Alright, just remember these two formulas. Okay, these are important for solving the exam. For the exam point of view, these two are important. This sine 2 theta is nothing but sine theta times of cos of theta. Got it? That is how I got it actually from the basic trigonometric relationships. Now for this we can evaluate the resultant stress PR, which is nothing but square root of normal stress and our shear stress. Just substitute these above values. We will get it as P cos theta. So cos to the power of 4 because there is square here, and sine square cos square is because square on tau as well. So this is the resultant component of our force for the case 1, where the members are subjected to the axial loads. Second case is where the members are subjected to the like principal stresses. So our like principal stresses are P1 here, P2 here, P2 here and P3 here. The same plane again, we will consider one plane here and label the corners A, B, C, D, and this point on intersection of CB is nothing but our E. And to this plane we have normal stress Pn and tangential stress Pt, which we need to actually find out. Again, this plane is inclined at an angle of theta. Now you see that earlier we had only one force, that was P, which was acting on the plane AB here. You can see it here, isn't it? On the plane AB there was only actually one stress, that is P, but here in this case we have the stresses acting in two different directions along x and y, such as P1 and P2, and again this one is P1 itself. P1 in the x direction and P2 in the y direction. For this case, through just apply those geometrical relationships which I had explained earlier. What happens, we have on this plane we have P2 here like this, and the other side, sorry, our PT has to be the tangential stress which was supposed to be acting parallel to the plane. Okay, this is our PT and this is our P1 here. What do you need to do here is actually just resolve this P2 like this. One of them is P2 sine of theta, so this will be P2 sine of theta, and on the other side of the P2, resolving it, will get P2 cos of theta. And for the case of P1, you can see this is our P1. If you resolve this, we will get this P1 cos of theta, and here we have P1 sine of theta. Just resolve this, we will get the values for calculating the stress Pn. So the stress Pn is nothing but the same formula, which is nothing but the total force normal to the plane BE divided by the sectional area along the plane BE. So this is the formula. Just resolve this, we will get P1 sine of theta. Just resolve this, we will get P1 cos of theta. And here we have P1 sine of theta. So this is our P1 cos of theta. And here we have P1 sine of theta. Divided by the sectional area along the plane BE. Now one more important consideration here is, that time we had considered the sectional area along the plane BE as a secant theta. Okay, so in this case the member was subjected to the axial load, but in this case we have to consider unit thickness of the member to get our results. Okay, unit thickness is essential because at every point a material has been subjected to the stresses in four directions. Two directions are same. Okay, two directions are same, two stresses acting in the same directions. So that is why we have to consider the unit thickness of the material. So sectional area of the member is BE is equals to, it becomes equals to a value of 1. Okay, area of BE is equals to 1, or it has to be unity. Okay, this is the important consideration. I mean, you will get the answers, you will get the final result of the derivation if you consider the unity. So this one has to be P1 BA cos of theta plus P2 EA sin of theta divided by sectional area, that is the unit area along the BE is unit area. When we say unit area, it is just unity. Okay, so thickness is unity multiplied by the plane BE. So BE times of 1 becomes our area. Now sorry, this is my small mistake here. That is, when we consider unit thickness, then area of BE becomes unit thickness multiplied by the length BE. Okay, pardon for that. Now consider this AB and EA. AB and EA here, this is theta. So you see that AB by E by BE is equals to cos of theta. So this BE and BA is nothing but P1 cos of theta. Cos of theta means cos square theta plus P2. Okay, just separate this denominator to both the sides as P1 cos of theta divided by BE times of BA plus EA sin of theta divided by BE. Okay, so P2 and other side you can see EA divided by BE is nothing but our sin theta. So sin theta, so EA by BE is sin of theta, sin theta is sin square of theta. So our inclined plane actually is our adjacent or base, because it is with respect to this we are evaluating our normal stress in the point PT. So we'll get this answer. So through the geometric relationship, it is P1 times of cos square theta, sorry, trigonometric relationship, cos square theta is 1 plus cos of 2 theta plus P2 times P2 by 2. This one is also P1 by 2 here, because it is 1 plus cos theta by cos 2 theta divided by 2 is equals to cos square of theta, and on this side is 1 minus of cos of 2 theta. Okay, so if we simplify this, we will get the Pn is equals to P1 plus P2 divided by 2 plus P1 minus of P2 divided by 2 times of cos of 2 theta. Now the normal stress has been evaluated. The tangential stress has to be seen. So it is nothing but the total force parallel to the plane BE, parallel to plane BE. So in the earlier case okay, along or parallel, both are the same. Okay, I have mentioned along. So here I have mentioned parallel, both have the same meaning. Total force parallel to the plane BE divided by sectional area along plane BE. So that sectional area is nothing but our unit thickness multiplied by the length of the plane BE, which is nothing but BE itself what we had taken. So the same concept is followed here. So it is BA times of sine theta minus of, sorry, this is P1, P2 times of EA cos of theta. So this is going to be equal to, now a question might rise that we have taken P2 negative here for the case of tangential stresses. Okay, now when our plane, referral plane, say BE has been inclined with respect to the normal theta itself, the sign convention usually changes. Okay, the usual sign conventions in the normal cases we used to take is this was plus x, this was plus y, this was minus y, and this was minus x. This entire thing here actually reverses, it shift by a value of how much, through this theta plus 90 degree. So when that happens, our P2 ultimately becomes 90 minus of negative. Okay, so it is minus of P2 EA cos of theta. So this will be equals to P1 minus of P2 into sine theta into cos of theta. So how did I get this? Just substitute BA by BE and EA by BE here. So we will get this value of P1 minus of P2 times of sine theta cos theta, because BA by BE is nothing, becomes in this case as cos theta. Just we had calculated earlier here. This is cos theta. I have not written it properly. Okay, I hope you remember that simple substitutions for trigonometry and geometric relationships. So tangential stress sine theta and cos of theta is equals to sine of 2 theta divided by 2. Okay, remember this one as well. This is also trigonometric relationship. So P1 minus of P2 sine of 2 theta divided by 2 is our tangential stress. So now there is another case, case 3. I will finish it faster. So till now we had considered the two different cases. The first one was the axial load one, and the second case is where there were actually the like principal stresses, say P1 and P2 acting over the body. So along with these stresses, say like stresses P1 and P2, we have another shear stresses that was acting on our element. Okay, that we are going to consider now. Okay, this is the element, sigma x and sigma x be our principal stresses, sigma y and sigma y in another direction. Now in this direction we have shear stress. So this is the case 3 where there is combined normal stresses and shear stresses acting. Okay, so this is our tau xy again, this is our tau yx, pardon, remember tau xy is equals to tau yx. Okay, so this was supposed to be tau xy, this was this is tau xy, and this was supposed to be tau yx, but both are same. That's what I have substituted here. Now for this I will consider a small element here, and this element shall be analyzed. Okay, remember, whenever I consider an element there are shear stress also. Whenever I consider a point there is only normal stresses acting at the point. Now with respect to that element, the sections B and B here, A and A here. Okay, now just we will take out this section here outside. Alright, this is the element, we have just taken it out for our analysis. Okay, and this is inclined at an angle of theta here with respect to our normal. So this angle is theta. Now just remember earlier we had calculated sigma n in the previous case. Okay, it is just that this same formula plus we have to add tau x dash and y dash, which are acting in the normal and perpendicular to the plane, by just resolving them into the required components. Okay, so tau x dash y dash, I will resolve this. This is the cos component of it, and the other side we have the sine component of it. Okay, on the plane of normal shear, normal stress, we will just consider the shear component, which is our sine 2 theta. So it is sigma n is equals to So earlier we had considered P1 and P2. Here we are just considering sigma x and sigma y. Sigma x plus sigma y plus sigma x minus of sigma y by 2, okay, into cos of 2 theta plus tau xy sine of 2 theta. Okay, whatever I did here is that this is tau xy dash, tau y dash, tau x dash. So the sigma n is nothing but sigma x dash, sigma y dash. Okay, so this is our the plane AB, and with respect to this plane AB, we are finding out sigma x dash and sigma y dash and tau x dash y dash. Okay, that is the stresses acting on a sectional plane, so that we can get to know what are the stresses acting at every point when there is combined shear and normal stresses acting on the body. Sigma y dash, sigma x minus of, sorry, sigma x plus sigma y divided by 2 minus of sigma x minus of sigma y divided by 2. All of these derivations are not that important, but the final result, whatever we have written it here, like this one and the earlier cases, are important to evaluate the problems. Okay, and tau x dash y dash will be equals to sigma x minus of sigma y divided by 2 times of sine of 2 theta plus cos of 2 theta times of tau xy. Okay, so these are tau x dash, sigma y dash are nothing but the stresses acting on any plane within the structure. So with this we complete the different cases. Now whatever we have made till now, this is called as the analytical method of stress transformation. In order to evaluate or to conduct the stress transformation, there are two different methods. First one is this analytical method, whatever we have solved here, these three cases, and the other method is graphical method. That graphical method is Morse circle. So first one is analytical. So right now we finish this analytical method. Next method is this graphical method. So graphical method will be Morse 2D stress circle, sorry. Okay, Morse 2D stress circle. So that we are going to solve in the next lecture. So kindly share and subscribe.